whatever position you're in, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. If you get into that position on your own accord or somebody put you in there, do you have at least 2 or 3 things that you can be pursuing, either in the form of a defend and escape or a control and submission? And that would allow you to progress to either, if you're talking about points in competition, it'll help you get points, or it'll help you win the fight. So Refuge Tube, right? Some good stuff. I came to this video because I got kneed in the face in a grappling sparring match. I train in MMA. There's a mental aspect to the game where if I get kicked in the balls with my cup on, it still incapacitates me more than when I get kneed in the balls in a street fight because of the safety aspect. Just like when I accept being taken down, I don't get as exhausted as if I was refusing the takedown. And in first instance of accepting, I'm still aware to pull guard the moment we fall. While in the latter, I'm just screaming murder mentally. I wonder what your advice is for these little accidents. Also, props to you people for training in the gi. I wouldn't want my fingers twisted and damaged all the time. So let's go backwards. With regards to training in the gi versus no gi, they're both 2 sides of the same coin. I actually started learning grappling in the context of striking, specifically in no-gi. I started in striking. I did Kyokushin karate mixed with Muay Thai boxing, wrestling, judo, and no-gi jiu-jitsu. So this was kind of like my upbringing throughout my childhood up until when I was in college. And all of the grappling that we learned was more or less in the context of without a gi. The thing that kind of inspired me to pursue learning the gi itself was whenever I'd face off against a friend or a buddy that trained exclusively in the gi, I'd always get bested. And I was like, all right, I gotta learn this joint because I can't keep losing to folks in this regard. So when I started training in the gi, one of the things that was pointed out to me was how the benefit of training in the gi is that you sharpen your ability to defend and escape against attacks. The reason is because it's simply harder to do. It's easier to control and submit opponents when you're dealing with the gi. On the flip side, it is far easier to defend and escape in no gi and is significantly more challenging to control and submit in the gi itself. I'm sorry, in no-gi, it's far more difficult. And so in order for you to do well in no-gi, and especially if you're taking the approach of being able to slow the fight down so that you can control and cook and submit, if you're looking to take that approach, then you need to really sharpen your ability to get into and maintain a dominant position, establish control, maintain that control, and then progress to a submission. So these are 2 sides of the same coin. And so if you're only training on one side, you're only really getting half the art. So something to kind of share that with you. One of the benefit of training in the gi, you get to be more technical, right? And sharper in the gi itself, especially in the case of defending and escaping against attacks. And the reality is this, I know people make the argument that, people aren't running around in the gi all the time. Like, I don't know where, people who say that, I don't know where they live or where they grew up. But I'll tell you this much, most people have pants on, trousers for the folks on the other side of the pond across the Atlantic. And a lot of people do wear some sort of a jacket, right? And to some degree, whether that jacket is in the form of a hoodie, or a vest, or a suit jacket, or simply because of seasonality, you might actually be wearing a legitimate jacket. All of that translates directly in the scope of the training with the gi. So now the question of protecting your fingers and your joints, something that's really important. If that is a fear of yours with relation to gi, then I would convey to you the words of advice from Jean-Jacques Machado. And his words were, Grips are like relationships. You got to know when to let go. And so the problem that a lot of people have is they're so committed to holding onto grips. And when in reality, even in the gi, when you do get grips, grips are a means of control and transition. You don't necessarily have to have grips all the time, especially the kind of grips that cause your knuckles to get gnarly. And so, I mean, yeah, there's sometimes soreness if you're holding on for too long, but that's a lesson to me. If my hands are feeling sore from gripping too much, then perhaps I need to revisit and understand how and when to grip. One of the things I appreciate about doing jujitsu while fasting, or at least in the month of Ramadan, even post breaking of the fast, is that it forces you to be more mindful of your energy expenditure. And thus you're focusing also being on more technical, more efficient. You're not going to spend all your time getting a particular grip and holding onto it for dear life because you might cramp. Simple as that. And so that's why it's important to understand when to let go or when to commit, right? But you won't know that until you get into the game. One of the things, the way that I approach, and this is me coming at it from my background in the mixed martial arts, um, when you're getting in the ring, so to speak, you're getting into a sparring match, you're coming into it with the notion that you're gonna get hit, right? Even in knife defense, I've taken some Kali classes in the past as well. I trained in that for a little bit. I wouldn't even consider myself a beginner, but the philosophy that they explained was that if you find yourself in an altercation and somebody pulls out a knife, understand that you're going to get cut. And so if you accept that reality, then you'll be able to progress and defend yourself potentially and save your life. A simpler, more peaceful example I can give you is skiing. I don't know if you've ever been skiing, but when I first started to learn how to ski, I was in 6th grade, I believe. Middle school, part of the ski club. And one of the things that came with the package of joining the ski club and going to, I think we would go like once a week over to, this is back on the East Coast in New Jersey. We'd go over to Mountain Creek Action Park, depending on what era time you lived in. But during the winter season, they had a ski resort. Your package got you lessons, and the advice was go take lessons. The first lesson they teach you is how to fall and get back up, right? Embrace the fact that you're gonna fall, right? Especially on the mountain, right? The question is, how quickly can you get yourself back up? In the words of Alfred in Batman Begins, why do we fall down, Master Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up. Same thing when I first started learning martial arts. As a kid, I was in the 3rd grade. I remember very vividly that amongst the first lessons was how to break fall, right? Wasn't how to throw a punch, wasn't how to throw a kick, wasn't how to do a takedown or a throw. It was how to break fall. And we would practice that until we got it right, and then we would progress. Even in the local dojo here, one of the first things that they teach kids, all the various ways to break fall. So this way, when the drop comes, it's a non-issue. It becomes instinctual. You're moving, you're falling in a particular direction. Boom, you're gonna break fall. And so that's part of like the energy expenditure, because a lot of that is coming from how you're spending your mind, right? One of the easier ways to actually reduce how much energy you're expending, be more focused, is to focus on something singular, right? Drown out that noise, whether you're on the mat or on the tournament. How to drown out that noise is to focus on one thing, right? And this is sound advice for just everyday life, right? Life can get hectic. A lot of things are going to be thrown at you. How do you drown out the noise, except that you focus on the one thing in the moment, right? The thing that will have the most impact, would allow you to get a sense of control. What is that one thing that you can just simply focus on? Whether it be a grip, whether it be attempting for a takedown, whether it be trying to get a heel pick, whether it be getting into a particular position. What is that one thing that you're just so focused on that would allow you to have confidence, control your breathing, and drown out the world around you? That's something that's going to be helpful. There was a reel I saw earlier today where some dude just literally lets people pass their guard just so that he can take that position, because he's got some really good sweeps, right? So he knows how to get into a top position while somebody's already passed his legs, and good on him, right? And that's something that people don't recognize, especially for the kind of game that he's playing. Not saying that you should play his game. In fact, it's the opposite. I'm saying play your game. If you don't know what that game is, then I would say work on discovering that. Work on figuring out what is it that you're going to be doing, because especially when it comes to like a takedown, right? Like what is your game plan when you were sparring with somebody, right? You're squared off, one-on-one, standing. How are you approaching? Like, are you, I don't know, starting with your measuring strikes, right? Jab, jab, cross, hook, see what's happening, how they react. From there, you jab, jab, cross, uppercut, low kick, right? And see how they react. And then from there, you kind of figure out, okay, should I increase the distance and go in, or should I just simply close the distance, go for a lockup? And whatever that game is. And then from that position, once you're there, do you go for a knee and then try to throw it down and then work on an open guard passing situation, right? That's another option. If you do get into that, like for me, like I know if I get into a situation where a person tries to pull guard, my thing is, all right, I'm going to go ahead, create some distance, or essentially remove any leverage that they have with their feet, because the whole point of pulling guard is so that you have leverage with your feet. And so if somebody pulls guard on me, my first instinct nowadays is to simply, all right, get free of that foot, either create distance and then pass, or really just kind of throw that leg over or drag that foot. And then instead of me passing their legs, I'm just basically pulling their legs past me. It's like the laziest leg drag that you could find. Works really well in NoGi, especially if the mats are slippy. What is it that you're trying to do? And with every attempt that you're making, like you have alternatives, right? So one of the guys, and I mentioned this before, one of the guys that won all gold and won the season in 2025, he had, at least in the fights that I was in with him, he had the same game, right? It wasn't a mystery. His game was pull guard and chain attacks, and 3 attacks specifically: cross collar, arm bar, and triangle, right? Those were his, if I recall, arm bar, arm bar, cross collar, triangle. And he was just pairing, chaining those attacks, going for a cross collar, defend that, go for an arm bar, if you defend that, go for a triangle, defend that, like, and then he just continuously attacks. So now the person that's defending against that is just having to respond to his game as opposed to setting the pace. And that's kind of like one of the things that helps you be successful is whatever position, and this is something that you can think about in the future. Don't worry so much about energy expenditure, but figure out what is your double or triple threat. What is your double or triple threat from any given position that you're going to be going at it from? So simple example, I said this is something that's always developing and evolving, and even for me, so for example, if somebody is on bottom, I'm top, I'm trying to pass their guard, like my first threat would be to, I don't know, see if I can set up an ankle lock. If I can't set up an ankle lock, maybe I can do a toe hold. If I can do a toe hold, then maybe I can do a calf slicer. Now, people typically will tend to panic on this because it's like, hold on a second, you're attacking my legs. Like, yes, I'm going to attack your legs because your legs are right there. Why bother passing them when I can attack them? Right? That right away is something that's going to throw them off. Now, I understand for me at purple belt, I might not be able to do some, like I could probably do a an ankle lock or a calf slicer, but I probably won't be allowed to do a toe hold. But on the mat when we're training, it's all good, especially when you're training with consensual partners who are at the same rank or higher. Obviously, if I'm with a white belt or a blue belt, I'm not necessarily gonna try to toe hold them. But yeah, so if that's not an option, then at this point it's a question of like, all right, how do I pass their legs? So what are the different lockups that I could do? One is I could do a leg drag. Another is I could just drag. Like one is a technical leg drag, and the other one is the lazy muscling leg drag, where you just drag them across the mat. Another is to do a knee slice, right? So some guard passing options. From there, work towards getting into side control. Now, there's different positions of side control and different attacks one can do. From side control, just distracting with a cross face using the shoulder, cross face using the lapel, cross face, or getting my getting the underhook in and digging my my knuckles right behind his shoulder blades. So this way, even if he tries to square up or a bridge, it's gonna be uncomfortable, right? And so from there, once I've gotten my sense of control there, I might transition to either working towards a knee on belly, and then if he tries to defend that, I might pull him forward to set up an arm bar, and if he defends that, then I might reposition the arm that's closest to me into a bicep slicer setup, and then either work towards north-south, or start chaining that again, work towards the mount. If I get the mount position, then it's just a matter of threatening with cross collar, shoulder lock, kimura, any one of those, or armbar setup. So that's a quadruple threat right there. In each situation, there's a chain of attacks that one can explore and pursue, putting the person on a defensive, right? Until either you land a submission or you progress to a better position. And so from mount, what's the better position? The better position is a back take, right? Depending on, what your strengths are. So you get my point, right? The whole thing is that a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm trying to do something, but they took me down. Oh no, right? So it's the question is like, whatever position you're in, doesn't like that's the growth and the advancement that you have. Now, in a mixed martial arts MMA type scenario, I think it's a little bit simpler, because at this point, it's like, on one hand, it's easier to, well, for the person who's offending, they're not focused on being so technical and controlling. And so if you're on the defensive side, it's just a matter of closing that distance and locking it up. And so the question now is, how can you not only defend against their attacks, but how do you also turn your position into a situation that you can also administer some attacks or escapes, right? Like obviously, if you're mounted, you're not going to be attacking from that position. You're defending and escaping until you can get to a neutral or better position. Ultimately, can you get to either a half guard position where you're, or a deep half where you're locked up, or can you get into some sort of dogfight position, and in or guard, right? So you talk about pulling guard, but even if they're able to take you down, it's a question of like, if you have an open guard, your feet are striking material as well. So it's not even just a matter of them passing guard. They also have to defend against your donkey kicks, if for all intents and purposes. So that's the thing, right? So whatever position, I think in summary is that whatever position you're in, regardless of whether you got to that position on your own accord, or you were put into that position by your opponent or your sparring partner, is, do you have a clear plan of attack or repositioning yourself from there? So if you get taken down and you find yourself in side control bottom, what are your, just like how you would, I talked about attacks, what are the defenses that you would chain as a means of escaping? And granted, like, I personally like side control bottom. In fact, maybe too much, because I kind of get lazy in there, and I'm actually quite comfortable, and I'm very good at defending against attacks for the most part in side control bottom. Only recently it was the bow and arrow. That was my Achilles heel, which I've started to kind of figure out some defensive positions from there. But it's this question of like, what are your defenses and how can you use their attacks as opportunities to turn the tide in your favor, either through sweeps or forcing them to give up their position, where you can either just pop right back up or get into a better position that's either neutral or dominant. So I hope that was helpful. I know I said a lot of things, maybe a little bit more detailed than answer, but in short and in summary, is simply whatever position you're in, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. If you get into that position on your own accord or somebody put you in there, do you have at least 2 or 3 things that you can be pursuing, either in the form of a defend and escape or a control and submission? And that would allow you to progress to either, if you're talking about points in competition, it'll help you get points, or it'll help you win the fight. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. I'll see you soon.